Hey, we're cooking with gas here on the Jewcast.
Okay, careful using a phrase like that.
This trial is a travesty. It's a travesty of a mockery, of a sham, of a mockery, of a travesty, of two mockeries, of a sham.
Tradition!
Oh, shut up, Carl! Shut your goddamn Jew mouth! You people are why there's war in the Middle East!
Gekakken van Jan.
Nebbig.
Ver poepoepoe.
Vermischt.
Verkakt.
Vertut.
Verstonken.
Fartig.
Exactly.
You what Grammy Hall would call a real Jew.
Hey now, episode 40 of American Jew coming right at you.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Can you believe it?
We made it all the way to 40.
We did. I am Jordon Ferber.
I'm Jonathan Randall.
And we've got some Jewish news to tackle.
We got some Jewish stuff to talk about.
Some Jew news, American Jew news. Election day. Did you vote?
Yes.
Yeah? Who did you vote for?
Everyone that was Democrat.
Yeah.
I just kind of went down the line.
Right, I just went down that line also. But I always feel like if I don't know anybody who's running, I will vote for the Jew.
You'll vote for the Jew?
Yeah.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you have loyalty.
I think it's important to be part of the process.
Yeah, and apparently it's very important to get the sticker and post it on Instagram.
I didn't post the sticker on Instagram, but I did participate in the bake sale that they have at my voting places. It's at an elementary school.
Really?
They have a bake sale every year on election day.
Oh, well, I hope you got some good.
They clean up
goods. Yeah, wow, that's very smart.
Yeah, it is. Genius.
That's some good. They're teaching business in that school, apparently.
Yeah, great entrepreneurship right there.
So let's talk about this thing that happened in Colorado at this mall, where these people dressed up like religious Jews. They were wearing yarmulkes and I think taluses.
Yep.
And they were passing out flyers that there was no Holocaust. Right.
Well, not just that, but they were also handing out anti-Semitic propaganda, saying that the Jews run the porn industry, that they ran the Atlantic slave trade, and that the Holocaust didn't happen.
Yeah, and that like we run academia too. I think those
right.
are the two things, and they were posting them all over. That's crazy. Well, like I don't like so. First of all, it's crazy that they're even doing it. They're spreading this, propaganda, this anti-Semitism, but then they're dressing up like Jews, like to try to give the impression that like the Jews are doing it. The Jews are saying these bad things about themselves.
I guess, yeah. Apparently, one witness said that they were driving down the street and they were yelling out, "We Jews did 9/11 and we're sorry."
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So I guess it wasn't. It was more of like it seems like a performance kind of art. Well, not art. I can't.
What's
a performance thing where they wanted to be like pretend they're Jews passing it off. They thought it would have more of like an impact in making fun of Jews.
Well, I don't know. I think
I know the air's thin in Colorado, but geez.
Well, first of all, it's a good thing they didn't try this last week because with the Halloween celebrations, people might not have taken them seriously.
Right.
But the thing that's most disturbing to me, I think, is that nobody called the cops about it.
They would just let them do it.
They just did it. The people took the flyers down as soon as they were gone. They were in and out.
Well, that's good, to all the good Samaritans that saw these flyers all around, this Boulder, Colorado area, and they went and took it down. Like, good for you.
Yeah, I don't know.
And hey, shame on these anti-Semites. Apparently, they were like live streaming it while they were like doing it. They thought it was like funny and cool, and I think that's what like pisses me off lately with a lot of like the anti-Semitism that's happening is like people think it's like funny. They think it's like a joke. They think they're like doing something like, "Hey, look at me," and like it's pathetic.
Yeah.
But I mean, that is a big thing that they say that the Holocaust never happened, that the Jews made up the Holocaust to get sympathy from the world, so we could get Israel, get other things.
Yeah.
It's kind of whack.
Well,
the Holocaust did happen.
Yes, and
it definitely did happen.
We're running out of survivors. There are still survivors,
sadly, but there is a survivor, and there was recently there was a reunion at Yad Vashem. This Greek woman who saved the whole family, the Mordechai family.
Right, Melpomene Dina.
Okay,
is this Greek woman? She's
amazing woman.
As a teenager, she helped save a whole family, and like they finally had a reunion in Israel.
Yeah, at Yad Vashem at the Holocaust Memorial. Apparently, they've done this very often, but they're actually afraid that this might be the last one like this because we're soon going to be living in a post-survivor of the Holocaust world. But 40 people, 40 of, I guess, the Mordechai family were there to see and meet this woman. These 40 people would not exist if it wasn't for this woman. And it's just amazing. And thank goodness that there were people out there, people who were doing such bad things. People were standing by when bad things happen. But there are people like this woman who didn't stand by and wouldn't let these things happen, and she helped. She hid them, she fed them, she helped them flee when they got discovered. Like, she put herself in danger for somebody else, and I mean, she's like a hero. She's a real hero.
She is, and it's nice to see that there are people out there that go out of their way to make sure we don't forget about these things. That as much anti-Semitism as there is that's trying to say that this didn't happen, we're spending just as much time making sure people don't forget and bringing these people together to remind us that there are good people in the world.
Well, I'm glad, that this got such like national news coverage. While we have these people saying that there is no Holocaust, the Holocaust never happened, and when the survivors leave, it's going to be like more of this anti-Semitism. Like, we're not going to have these people that bared witness to all the awful things. So I'm sure she shared her story. The Mordechai family, obviously, 2 of the members that were saved were there. Hopefully, we can keep this alive, that like the memory of all these people, these horrible things happened. It's not bullshit, okay? I don't care if you're Mel Gibson's father or not. It's for real. The Holocaust did happen. I've been to Auschwitz. I've been to Birkenau. I've met survivors. And it's just lunacy to say anything otherwise. And I just want to give my love to this amazing Greek woman who saved people, to anybody who went out of their way to help save someone during the Holocaust, and to all the survivors and to the survivors' families. And, I will never forget. And I hope all our listeners never forget as well.
Now let's get to the other Jews of the week. We're going to talk about this week's Torah portion.
Oh, the first Jew.
Right. We talk about
the original Jew.
The original Jew.
Jew number 1.
There's finally Jews in the Torah now.
Finally. So I guess the first 2 books in Genesis, creation, then Noah. Apparently that took place, from what I understand, that was 2,000 years.
Okay.
So now we're 2,000 years later, and there's this guy, Avraham. His name originally isn't Avraham.
It's just Abram.
It's just Abram. Okay. So God likes him?
Yeah, apparently God likes him and tells him he's going to help guide him into the promised land, into Israel.
He tells him to go to Israel, take his family. He takes his nephew Lot. He takes his wife, Sarah, who's not named Sarah yet.
Right, it's like Sarah.
And he goes. Why does Abraham get chosen? I don't understand.
There's a lot of they don't explain in this week's Torah portion. That's like, well, I don't know. We're going to get to some fucking.
So they tell him to go to Israel, the land that's going to be theirs. They go there,
but they run out of supplies and food on their way.
So they have to go to Egypt.
Right, they have to go to Egypt.
I don't know why we're dealing with Egypt. This is like the first time bad things happen in Egypt. So Sarah, Abraham's wife, is super hot. Apparently, she's like a 10.
Yeah. So he tells her, "Listen, when we go there, if they find out we're married, they're going to kill me so they can fuck you. So we should tell them that we're brother and sister, because they're going to fuck you one way or the other, But this way, they'll.
Wow, the way you say it is so poetically.
That's essentially what he says, though.
That was the quote, by the way, from the Bible.
He says they're going to fuck you one way or the other. So if I'm your brother, they'll give me things to possess you, rather than just killing me to possess you.
Which that's
what happened.
Weird. Yeah, I know that's what happened, but that's a little weird because that is what happened. They notice her. They want to bring her the king. The king gives Abraham a bunch of stuff. It's almost like he kind of, sort of, a little bit pimped out his wife. Almost
a little bit. Right.
It's a little gray.
But God
was Abraham the first cuck? I don't know.
Well,
but anyways, yeah, God. He gives a plague.
God puts a plague on the Pharaoh.
I guess this is the first plague of Egypt because we have plagues later in Exodus.
Right.
So he puts a plague on the Pharaoh before he gets to touch her.
Right. And he's like, "Oh my God, it's not. She's not single."
Yeah, I don't know. So they let her go back to Abraham. I guess they figure that they're really husband and wife, and then he gives her more stuff.
Yeah, he's just
like, have some more.
Well, he must have been pretty embarrassed, trying to get to bed with her, and it turns out he has the plague.
So he gives him more stuff. His nephew Lot wants to go to. They get in a fight over something.
Right.
He wants to go to another place.
He goes to Sodom.
I guess there's like
full of wicked people.
Sodom is horrible. Apparently, the horrible place. I guess that's where we get sodomy from.
Yeah.
Apparently, everyone's just there, like having butt sex. I don't know.
And so Sarah can't get pregnant from Abraham for some reason.
Well, Sarah's barren.
Right.
She can't get pregnant, and so
Abraham has sex with like one of her slaves.
Right. So she says, "Hey, take my slave and have sex so you can have a kid." And he does that, and she has a kid, and then
and the slave is kind of like a bitch after that. She's like, "Well, I gave birth to the son. Who are you?"
And that pisses Sarah off, and they kind of get in a little cat fight, and then this slave she wants to leave, but then I guess God appears to her. And he tells her, "No, you can't leave. Your son, you should name him Ishmael, and he's going to be the leader of a group." And this is like where like Muslims come from.
Yeah,
this is Abraham's son. So we're related. You know, it sucks that there's all this conflict, especially in the Middle East when we both came from the same place. It's almost like the feud between Sarah and the slave. I mean, I don't know her name. Do we know what the slave's name is?
The Egyptian slave is Hagar.
Hagar. So Hagar, yeah, she's kind of like the mother of, you know, the Muslim religion of Islam.
Okay.
And there's like still this feud going on all these years later. It's crazy. So she goes back. Ishmael, he ends up, you know, having ancestors that a lot of the Arabic nations and their religions, they come apparently from that lineage according to the Bible.
When Hagar gave birth to Ishmael, Abraham was 86 years old.
Wow, that's some old sperm.
When he's 99, God says to him, "Okay, now Sarah will bear you a child. Now you can have sex with your wife and she'll have you give birth." And Abraham is like, "What? Really? Are you kidding? A woman of her age is going to be able to give birth?"
Ouch. I hope we didn't say that in front of her.
He says it.
Yeah, they foreshadow that she's going to give birth to Isaac, and he's going to start the nation of Judaism. It's going to be the people that are going to go to Israel.
Abraham fell flat on his face and laughed, thinking, "Can a child be born to a man of 100? Can a 90-year-old Sarah bear a child? Your wife Sarah will bear you a son. You will call him Isaac, and you will establish my covenant for him," which is the circumcision. That's your covenant.
Okay, so is it a punishment because he laughed at God's face, circumcision?
I don't think so.
Okay, but he just is like, this is the covenant.
God tells Abraham beforehand, "You're going to have a child with Sarah, and you're going to circumcise him to show your faith."
Okay,
that's when Abraham laughs. Like, "What are you kidding? I'm 100 years old. How can I have a child? She's 90 years old. She's going to give birth to a baby at 90 years old."
I bet he stopped laughing fast when they cut off a piece of his penis.
Well, he has to do it himself.
Wow, that's even harder. Yeah, so he gives himself a circumcision. He gives Ishmael a circumcision. He gives everybody like in his camp.
So he's 100 years old when he circumcises himself.
Wow.
His son.
I mean, how do you have steady hands? I'd be nervous.
Yeah. His son is 13 years old when he gives them the circumcision.
Oh, it's like his bar mitzvah.
And apparently, like, this is the covenant that you have to enter with God by giving the circumcision. I guess God, you know, we always say that you want your dick to look like your daddy's. I guess God's dick is circumcised. He wants us to look like it.
I mean, if that's the case, why didn't he just make us like that, like with the circumcised? Why did he create the extra
There's
skin?
so many unanswered questions. Why? It says, okay, now after you've circumcised all these people as adults, now we're going to do it at 8 days. 8 days is the threshold, I think.
And now it's like, that was probably a lot. I heard a lot of moaning and crying. Let's keep it down to like 8 days.
Yeah.
But it's just like so weird for me. It's like, okay, you're going to be the people. You're going to get this land of Israel. I'm your God. You're the chosen people. Cut off a part of your dick. It just seems so intense and so crazy, like of all the things they could do. And there's so many Jewish rituals that, you know, take place in the Torah and that Jewish people have. The first Jew, you know, they could have told him to like light a candle or light a menorah, give a sacrifice.
Yeah.
A lot of people were doing the whole sacrifice things for ages, but no, he wants him for some reason to circumcise himself. I got to think the circumcision wasn't even a thing.
No, it wasn't.
Like Abraham's probably like, what's that? Like, what?
And there's no mention in that story of anybody not wanting to do it. There's nobody that's like, excuse me, perhaps we can discuss this.
Actually, I'm going to step this one out. I got a note from my doctor.
This guy really is testing my faith.
My soothsayer said I can't do it.
They don't have any part in there where like Abraham is saying, well, all right, look, I'll do it to myself first.
Maybe did it for himself and everybody saw it.
I don't know. You watch a 100-year-old man mutilate his dick, and then you're like lining up. I don't understand.
Like very traumatic. Even for an 8-day baby,
Well, that's why
that's one of his biggest experience. Like when you're born, one of your biggest experiences as a Jew is getting a piece of your penis cut off, and it's very sensitive.
Well, that's
it's a
why
sensitive area.
That's why they give you wine. That's why
they got to get the baby drunk.
They get the baby drunk.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
Your first time getting drunk, you end up losing a piece of your dick.
So that's how this week's Torah portion ends. Kind of on a downer, I guess. And by the way, there's somewhere around this time where God changes their names, right?
Right.
He makes their names Abraham and he makes their name Sarah. Isaac means laughter, apparently, from what I read.
Yeah.
Even God was like, be good to Ishmael.
Yeah.
So how are Jews like not good to people of the Islamic faith when like it's black and white in the Bible? He's telling Abraham to do it. Abraham's the first Jew. We should all be following in his footsteps. We are literally like brothers. We're family, and we got to stop these petty differences and like remember this. They should be reading this at the Gaza Strip at the wall.
It is a little bit of a downer that everybody just cut their dicks open at the end of this portion.
Well, I mean, not open,
but supposedly, that's how they show their covenant to God, and they're going to show their faith that way. So
it's tough.
If you're God and you're writing the book, like that's a happy ending.
I always think that people wrote this book and they wrote it to control people, but this is like a really like weird thing with the circumcision, especially because then they change it to 8 days, probably because he's like, no one's going to do this when they're older. Let's just get it out of the way like for 8 days.
Right.
And it's weird, these numbers. This is our 40th episode. There's a lot of 40 days and 40 nights.
We had 40 Holocaust survivors in this week's episode.
Oh,
also.
That's right. 40 Holocaust survivors met with this Greek woman at Yad Vashem.
Yeah.
And then 8 days. There's also 8 nights of Hanukkah. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's weird with a lot of these numbers are always the same. I don't know. I mean, maybe God has a little OCD when it comes to numbers.
Well, I'm glad that I wasn't given the option of whether or not I was going to be circumcised, because I don't know, if I had the cognition to make that decision.
I've heard of people like getting it like at 13, like they didn't have it and they're like converting or whatever. And
I tell you right now, if they were doing circumcisions at your bar mitzvah, you'd get a lot fewer people to show up.
But hopefully you get a lot better gifts.
Yeah. Well, that's episode 40, guys. Check us out on social media across all platforms on American Jew Podcast, except on Twitter. We are American Jew Pod. You can find me on Instagram at Beatnik Nudnik.
At Jonathan Randall. Thanks to everybody that listens. We'd love your feedback. Email us, AmericanJewPodcast@gmail.com, and we hope everybody has a great week.
And not to cut this episode short, but that's the end.